Good evening. Good evening, councillors, officers, visitors. And can I say a especially warm welcome to those of you who are viewing online tonight. And I hope it's as clear as it usually is. Thank you very much. Okay, so apologies for absence tonight.
I've got Councillors Atwell here, Ash McGarwell, Councillor Tony Lukey and Balraj Sarai.
Okay, does anyone have... Councillor Vikram Grewal?
Thank you, Chair. It's from Councillor Shivraj Garawal as well. He's feeling unwell.
Thank you for that. Okay, so declarations of interest. I'm sure that one of the things we will declare is that we have received the presentation that will be given tonight by Miss Chantal, and on item 4. Okay, I've had no other communication apart from observing some conversations on Facebook to do with the old station house, where something that was drummed up to be controversial has been squashed by residents. So that was really nice to see for once. So I'm just going to say that I very appreciate residents' observations of knowing when planning applications went in and how they were perceived now. So thank you very much for that to those residents. Okay, so you should have... Councillor Guy Lambert.
Yeah, I've had some input from the Grove Park group about number 5. I've also met with them today.
Thank you very much.
Other things, but including that.
Thank you. That's got that, Wendy. Thank you. Okay. That's right, and I hope you've all got your addendum. We refer to that as we go through the papers. Okay, so moving on to the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of July 2021, pages 3 to 6. First of all, for accuracy, everybody happy with those? Yep. Yes, thank you. And is there any matters arising from those that isn't on our agenda tonight? No, thank you very much. So can I sign those as a true record? Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on. Item 4, Russell Finex, Browers Lane, Feltham, pages 7 to 36. And there's also pages in your addendum, pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think, yes, 7. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to the officer who's responsible for this. So over to Sam, please, for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. My name is Sam Smith. I'm the Deputy Area Planning Manager for the West of the Borough, and I'll be presenting Agenda Item 4. Agenda Item 4 concerns Russell Finex on Browers Lane in Feltham. Planning permission is sought for the erection of a Part 2, Part 3-storey extension to the existing loading bay, plus a link bridge to an office building, raising and reprofiling the roof of a store, and the formation of car parking on land to the west of the site. The slide that you can see there shows the site outlined in red. It's located just to the southeast of Feltham Town Centre and occupies a large plot which fronts onto Air Parkway and Browers Lane. The properties that you can see immediately to the west or on your left, that would be the properties which front onto the green and their residential properties there. The surrounding area is a mixture of residential in character, but also some large industrial, commercial and leisure uses also surround the area as well. And this slide here shows the proposed buildings and the car parking. So the red areas that you can see attached to the building, they're the proposed office and storage building, and also the area that the roof would be reprofiled and raised. And the area in red to the top of the slide, that shows the new area of car parking on existing land to the northwest of the site. And that's just showing the car parking layout there and the proposed landscaping alongside that. These show the proposed buildings and the link bridge as well. And these are just some photos of the site. This is the site access off Browells Lane. And that's just into the access there. The area of car parking is on the left-hand side there, which you can't really see because of the metal fencing. That's where that would be located. That's just a closer image there. And this is the area that is behind the fencing. At the moment, it's an area of scrubland. And what we can see, I'll zoom in a moment, is it might be pertinent to know the location of the wall that you can see in the foreground. And beyond that, you'll just see what looks like it is a roof. That's the roof of the cattery at the neighbouring property there. Just pertinent to obviously some of the discussions we'll be having this evening to note the location of them. But this is the area of the car parking that is proposed. And that's just from Browells Lane as well, showing what the existing state of that is from the street scene. Okay, so going through the planning issues that are before you this evening. In terms of planning policy supports the upgrading and the provision of new business floor space in the borough and supporting existing businesses to expand where this generates jobs and economic benefit. So there's no objection in principle to the extensions and development proposed, except for the car parking, because obviously planning policy does seek to reduce the levels of car parking which are proposed in new development. So you'll need to factor that in as well to your consideration of the item. But in terms of the design of the buildings, these have been reviewed and by our urban design officers and architects who are satisfied with the design and believe that they would be acceptable for the context of these. Also, in terms of the heritage impacts, it is adjacent to the Feltham Green Conservation Area, so we do need to pay due regard to preserving or enhancing the conservation area, and we are satisfied that this development would conserve the Feltham Green Conservation Area. In terms of the neighbour impacts, the main impacts that would be arising from this would likely be noise. This would be from both the new buildings themselves that are proposed and also likely from the new car parking, as this would be located to existing residential properties. In terms of the noise from the building, officers are satisfied that this can be adequately dealt with by conditions such as noise mitigation measures, and that's been agreed by the council's noise consultants as well. However, it would likely that the car parking would result in some disturbance to neighbouring residents, obviously arising from where that's located, and there's limited options in terms of mitigation for that. So you'll need to weigh that up in the consideration of the proposal. Other aspects of neighbour amenity, such as overlooking and light and privacy, are deemed to be acceptable given the distances involved and the intervening development between the building and those neighbouring residents as well. Overall, it's found that whilst there would be some harm arising from the proposed development in terms of the impact, in terms of noise from the car parking, and also the additional provision of car parking, albeit it has been found that this has been explained for why that is required. This must be weighed against the economic benefits and also the environmental benefits as well, as set out in the report, and also subject to the additional conditions and clarifications in the addendum report. It's therefore recommended that committee approve the application, subject to conditions, a Section 106 agreement as set out in the report, the addendum report. And I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Okay, if we've got any brief questions to the officer now, there will be an opportunity once both the objector and the developers have spoken, and we'll come back to the officer for any questions at that point, if that's what you would prefer. I'm just looking round. Yes, Councillor John Todd.
Yeah, that was a very helpful presentation. Why is there so much in the addendum report?
In terms of, we have deadlines to meet for the publication of the main report, so unfortunately I had to put quite a lot of the conditions in the addendum, so I'm sorry on this occasion it was a longer one. No, there's no change in the scheme. It was just additional information that you needed to consider.
Okay, right. I got a few thumbs up to ask questions of the officer after the objector and the developers have spoken. So I will now proceed to ask Miss Chantal Barford to put her objections, if you like. Okay. Okay. Okay, we will start the timing when you're ready to start, okay? Okay, all right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chantal Barford, and I'm the owner of the Cat's Whiskers Boarding Cattery, which has been operating since 2006. I appreciate that Russell Finex is a major employer within the Feltham area, and I'm not here to oppose the majority of their planning application. I am only objecting to the current planning application for the car park, as I am not being treated as fairly or equitably as the other 4 residents directly involved. This is the current landscape plan for the car park, slide 1. The planning officer's report states that new trees are being planted along the site boundary to enhance the existing planting, which will mitigate any noise and disturbance to the 5 residents directly affected. As you can see from the plan, there is a proposed 3-metre boundary along the west side of the car park for residents 1 to 3B, the green. In addition, pages 38 and 39 of the design and access statement describe providing evergreen shrubs and trees between neighbouring gardens and the parking spaces. However, on the north side, there is no such boundary. Russell Finex intend to erect a fence directly beside an existing wall, which was built in 1870 and is approximately 135 foot long. It appears that 2 parking spaces, which will be 4 foot from where animals are boarding, are more important than any mitigation measures for me as a resident. Slide 2. However, if 2 car park spaces were removed, as per the plan could look like this, which would help to mitigate any noise disturbance to myself and the cattery, and to possibly avoid any damage to this wall. The planning officer's report also states that there is no specific policy protection for noise disturbance affecting the operation of a cattery. I was refused my planning application for the cattery in 2006 because patrons would introduce a level of noise and disturbance that would have a detrimental impact on the living conditions of adjoining residents. This would have been caused by 2 to 3 cars coming to the cattery, possibly 2 to 3 times per week. And yet 15 years later, it seems that 23 cars using the car park throughout the day, 6 days a week, would not result in unacceptable noise disturbance for occupants and neighbours in accordance with local plan policy EQ5. Slide 3. I would imagine this shows the back of the cattery and the wall, so you can see how thin it is. I would imagine that most people would agree that an animal, unless deaf, would not choose to sit 4 foot from a car being started up, revved, or having its door slammed. Even worse if it's a motorbike. Was there any consultation with the animal warden as to the effect of the car park on my cattery? Would it be possible to continue as a viable business with a potential impact on the well-being of the animals boarding? The planning officer's report also says that the fact that the cattery faces into the garden will reduce the impact on boarders. However, this is not true. Slide 5. As the living and sleeping quarters are right next to the wall, it's the corridor which is furthest away. Slide 6. So this shows into the cabin. So where the chair is where the cats sit and sleep, and that's just right by the wall. I work in the cattery for approximately 60 to 70% of the day, so I and any cats boarding will be most directly impacted by noise and fumes. Lastly, the planning officer's report states any harm to the occupants and the neighbouring residents is outweighed by the benefits of this proposed development. There will be potential harm to an established business of over 15 years that has been providing a valuable service to the residents of Hounslow Borough and beyond. There could be potential harm to any cats that come to board. And finally, there could be serious harm to a wall that was built in 1870, which should surely be protected within a conservation area. And all this harm is outweighed by the benefits of having 2 car park spaces. Slide 7. And as you can see from this plan, there is no intention to even hand dig the earth away from the wall. I urge the committee to oppose the current plan for this car park and approve a boundary as per my other neighbours. If not, I would be happy with a boundary of even 6 foot. And for assurance that this wall will not be damaged during construction. If the committee should, however, feel inclined to approve the application as it is, could I be given time to accrue further evidence to support my case? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, over to councillors for questions, please.
Do I move back?
You stay where you are, please, because you will need to speak to answer your questions. Okay, we got questions. I've got Councillor Richard Foote.
Yeah, I'm just looking at and hear what you said about 2 parking spaces, but in addition to that, I mean, we've talked about trees planting along the barrier with the houses, and I'm wondering, really, the question I'm asking you, but it's probably also aimed at the planning officers, that were we to remove those parking spaces with enough room to plant trees, would the trees be detrimental to it, or would they be beneficial?
I don't mind if there's any trees and shrubs. It doesn't need to be trees. It could be just large shrubs. I actually offered to do this. I asked if a boundary was allowed, that I would plant the shrubs in that space at a meeting we had. No, because I've had plants there the whole time. I've been there 16 years. It's been a huge area of woodland with all kinds of wildlife, and it's all been growing over into my garden anyway. So I've been quite happy with it.
Councillor Alan Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. I think Richard's asked one of my questions. The other one's very straightforward and simple. Can you remind us how long the business has been there and how many cats you actually provide homes for or boarding for?
I've been there since 2006. Oh, sorry. I've been there since 2006, and I can board up to 32 cats. And I'm an ex-FAB cattery, and I'm now a 3-star cattery. So I'm quite a good cattery in the area.
Councillor John Todd.
Good evening. That's me. Can you see me? Yes. Okay. Thanks very much. I've got quite a few questions to ask you to try and put things in context, because I didn't completely follow you there. It's not a criticism of your presentation, but what are the hours of operation of your cattery? Can I bring a cat any time of day, or is
no? So the opening hours have to be agreed, so to not affect other residents in the road. So they're from 10 till 12 and 4:30 to 5:30. But I work in the cattery from 8 till 10 o'clock.
Okay. And you said you've got 30 odd cats. Yeah. Where's the pollution going to come from the car park?
I'm not so bothered by the pollution. That's car exhaust fumes. If there was some shrubland, that would stop it.
Well,
I'm not so bothered by that. It's the noise and disturbance. We get a lot of disturbance from the car park as it is, and it's a long way from us. And we've already mentioned that to Russell Finance in the local meeting.
Okay, but I'm surprised that pollution is not an issue. But let's concentrate on the noise and disturbance then. Be specific if you could.
Car doors, cars arriving at any time, hooting, which we get now, motorbikes revving, which we get now, people talking, shouting to each other to say goodbye at the end of the day. There's quite a lot of noise, and if we had that all in that car park area, that would be quite... Okay. It's quite hard for cats. They're supposed to be in a nice, safe and secure area. That's what I'm offering to my customers. I'm not offering them a car parking just behind them.
Okay. But one of the slides has got a very professional cattery wall of wood.
That's my cattery.
Looks very well built. Does that have insulation on it or not?
It has insulation for heat. That's all.
That's
so
all.
It's the wall. It's literally that.
Okay. Have you had the opportunity to speak to the applicant? Have you tried?
Yes.
And what's the result of that?
I think I made it clear very from the start that I wanted a boundary. Right from the start, I have written letters, emails, all saying I wanted a boundary. And at all times, I was assured that everything would be taken into consideration. Okay. And it wasn't until the planning application was actually submitted in... Sorry. Okay, so the planning application was submitted on the 15th of July. I had meetings with Russell Finex before that, which I actually asked for. I requested them with Ian Wardlaw and with Ray to discuss what was going to happen and whether they would consider my category.
Yeah.
We then had another meeting with Russell Finex in.
Can I come on to what you asked for and what they said, please?
Well, the letter I wrote back after the last meeting was, I am signing on the understanding that my boundary wall is protected and left undamaged during and after building works, that Russell Finex will erect a fence at least 4 to 6 feet away from the boundary wall, and this will be at least 8 foot high to maintain security of the category, and that these works are not carried out over the weekend and between hours agreed between Russell Finex and residents of the Green.
And what haven't they done? Remind me.
Any of that?
Okay. When you talk about a boundary wall, are you talking about a boundary? Is it the boundary of your premises, or are you asking them to give up some of their land?
No. So can I walk up to it?
Chair, if you're happy with that.
Can you show slide?
Queen, are you happy?
That one. That
Queen, are you happy?
This one. Sorry. So this is the boundary wall. So this was built in 1870. This is the boundary wall. This is my category. That's how much space there is. And then the boundary wall. So you're talking about a fence being that far away from an animal here in its living quarters.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And how, whilst you're there, if you don't mind, you talked about the applicant not applying whatever it was on an equitable basis. So try and equate, if we go back to that picture of the wall, I've seen that, but the one a bit closer. What do you say they should have done to treat you the same as the other residents?
Because they want to
Now, what should they have done?
They should have offered me a boundary the same as the other residents. Why there are 5 residents directly?
Oh, yeah, you said that, okay.
4 are getting a boundary of 12 foot, and yet it's at the end of their back garden.
But aren't you, the fence they're putting up, sorry to interrupt you, it is affect a boundary, isn't it? It's going to defer noise.
It's just a steel fence.
Well, no, but amongst other things, it will stop some of the noise, won't it?
I don't know how. I mean,
Okay. Well, let me explain then. I thought you.
This wall here is what they're going to put here. This doesn't stop the noise of the trucks going past or people walking past or when they do their blowing machines, the leaves or anything. And that's what they want to build here, directly here. Why can't I have it away from there? So then they don't have to dig.
So in other words, they give up some of their land.
Yeah, the land was originally belonging to all the residents of the Green.
Okay, well that's a matter of contract between you.
Right, okay, can I ask you to come back to the
Thank you.
to the mic? That would be helpful. Okay, so Councillor John Todd, you're happy with you're clear, your clarification there, right? I think we're all clear about the fact that there is very little room between the rear of your category and the original wall. And at the moment, it appears that the developers wish to put another boundary fence inside that, whereas you're saying that your neighbours who are residential housing will have a barrier at the end of their road. Is that correct?
Can you show number 1 again?
I know. That's what I'm saying. I was trying to clarify the fact that your neighbours who are in the housing there, 1 to 4,
1 to 3B.
1 to 3B, 4 houses or 5.
Yeah,
whatever,
4 houses.
4 houses are going to have a barrier,
Yeah, a boundary.
right, the
of
boundary.
shrubland and trees.
Okay, fine.
And then a fence.
Yeah, and then, but you won't be getting any of that. Okay.
I just
think,
get a fence directly in front of me.
okay, thank you. That's clarified that. Thank you. Right, I'm just going to look round. Is there anybody else got any other, right, sorry, Rajwinder?
Thank you, Chair. Just try to locate on the green. So your detached house, not next to the dentist, but after that.
Yeah, number 3B is there's number 1, number 2, the dentist, then number 3, the coach house, and then number 4, me.
So in front of the dentist, there is a parking.
Yeah.
And then after that, there is no parking.
Whole road.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, it's my fault now. I'm not doing it. Sorry, I do apologise. Okay, there's no other, anybody else? Okay, so thank you very much. You may now take your seat, and then I'll ask the developers. Okay. Okay, your 5 minutes will start when you start.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. First of all, I think what I'd like to say is that if the difference between our objection and not an objection is that we put up some extra shrubland, etc., we're quite willing to accept that. That's not really an issue or a problem for us to do that and give her the same shielding that we're giving the other neighbours. So that's not something we'd be too concerned about doing at all. We try and keep good relationship, if you like, with all the neighbours that are there, and try and work with them as much as we can. The other thing about cars banging all day long, well, it's not quite like that, right? Essentially, our workforce arrive in the morning and they can arrive anytime. Usually it'll be between 8 and 9. We had originally also stated, and I can't remember the exact times, that we would not make that car park available to people, and it would only be available within certain hours in the morning and then in the evenings as well, where they go. So it wouldn't be all day long in there. And so hopefully that would actually pacify some of the objections that are being raised with us. I just wanted to try to give a little bit background on our company as well. Our company, we've been in business for over 87 years. We've been on this site for around 60 years, and we're all our headquarters, etc. We're a UK-owned business, 100% UK-owned. All our manufacturing headquarters, etc., are at this site. We make machinery. 85% of that is exported around the world. As over the years the business has grown, we've bought buildings which have been attached to ours, and to give us the space to grow. No more buildings are available to us, hence the reason why we've applied for this planning application to assist. We used to have about 100 employees. Over the last 10 years, our business has grown about 2.5 times, and which has meant our employees have gone up to about 200 people. We sell, if you like, our products to a lot of critical industries such as food and manufacturing companies, etc., and our everyday products touch everybody's lives out there. So many of the things you buy and use every day, they're made by our customers. So if you take chocolate producers, Nestle, Cadbury's, Mars, they're all our customers. If you buy your food from Allied Bakeries, Warburton's, McVitie's, Burton's, Marks and Spencer, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, they're all our customers. In the news, everybody's now these days heard of the names of AstraZeneca and Pfizer, Beximco, who produce the COVID drug Remdesivir. They're all our customers. These are the kind of people that we deal with. We're also involved in 3D printing when That was they're asking for ventilator manufacture for the NHS. That's also an area that we get involved in as well. Many of the people that do that and were helping make the ventilators, they were our customers. If we take in terms of space travel, that's all of a sudden in the news again, where you've got Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos going off. Well, we also supply equipment to people like NASA. Over the last 10 years, we've been won a lot of awards from the Hounslow Chamber of Commerce. We've been the best SME. We've been the Business of the Year twice. We've been featured in the Parliamentary Review as an example of manufacturing business success story. Twice we've been awarded the Responsible Business Champion by our local MP. We've won lots of other awards, and even last year we actually even beat Chelsea Football Club for the Corporate Organisational Excellence in the West London Business Awards. What I'd say is we truly are a British success story operating from the Borough of Hounslow. And since our application went in, our business scenario has actually improved. It's shrunk, but it's gone back up again. Our projections are in the next 5 years that we'd be looking to add another 54 jobs on this particular site. Wherever possible, we try and recruit people locally, but it's not always possible because of the skill sets that we need in terms of being able to support our customers worldwide. And it's not easy for us just to go down Feltham High Street and recruit whoever we want to find for our business. Okay, so as a result of this, we've got further growth plans, and we'd like to stay in Hounslow, but we can only do that if our full planning application is approved at this meeting. And certainly, we're happy to work with our neighbours to give them what Chantel here is asking for.
Thank you very much indeed. Questions? Right, I've got Councillor Alan Mitchell, and I've got you, Vikram. Alan?
Thank you. Yes, is it Ray?
Yeah.
Thanks, Ray, for that potted history of a great Feltham firm. I've basically boiled down 3 key points here, three questions I'd like to ask you. Yeah. Yes, as Councillor Todd said, we've got a very big addendum here tonight. There's a lot of stuff in that. I'm trying to drill down onto 3 key points here for me, for my benefit. I think colleagues will come in on other points. But what do you anticipate the extra peak noise from extra workshop activity and vehicular activity, including industrial vehicles coming and going? When do you anticipate that peak to be, and how much more will it be than it is now? The second point is very simply about light spillage and its effect, not only on the cattery, but the residents on the back of the Feltham Green there. What do you anticipate the peak light spillage to be? Because I've not been able to pull that one out. And the third point, if I can give 3, Chair, so you can take them all in one go. You're talking about employing an additional 20 staff and maybe 50 more in the future. One problem we have in Feltham, and we're working on it, is low aspiration. That's coming up, but skill shortages. What assurance could you give this committee, as a well-known and established local employer, that you will make efforts to ensure that it is local people in Feltham that do get the opportunity to train up and gain the skills so that they can be part of this success story as well, and not just from outside our area? So those are the 3 key points. Thank you.
Okay, don't worry, if you like to take them in any, right, okay, we'll summarise, I'll get Alan to summarise them. So Alan, can you summarise your 3 questions? Just the key point is employment is at the end for Feltham residents.
Yes.
An opportunity. Yeah. So apprenticeships or whatever that sort of thing is. Second one, light spillage.
Yeah, light spillage.
Yeah, and the first
peak
one?
Times, well, that's noise. What do you anticipate the peak times to be for vehicular and industrial noise from the workshop as a result of these additionals?
Okay. So if you can take them in any order you like.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if you take in terms of employment, I mean, we generally recruit apprentices every year, and we usually go to the local schools to see if we can find apprentices from them to come and join us, and then we train them. And we've been doing that for a long, long time. So a lot of our people that currently work for the company, they've actually come up through our apprentice scheme. So that's what that's what our goal always is to recruit whoever we can from the local community. Okay.
Like spillage, do you know it? I mean, don't
I
worry.
don't even understand the
That
question,
may
if I'm
be a
honest.
question we'll ask the officer, because I think that's probably more relevant. And the other one was about the actual amount of when the major, if I'm right,
Yeah.
the major noise
peak-
will be
Peak noise as a
peak
result.
noises as a result of your
activities.
car park activities
And workshop.
activities in the workshop.
Well, if you look at our plans, what we're looking for is we're looking for a relatively small area for workshop space. It's mainly a large part of it is offices above, right? And that's to house, if you like, we're at the moment we're struggling with office space as well. So if you look at part of the development, that's for office space above, and really from offices, I wouldn't expect a lot of noise to come from those. If you take the area that we're talking about, our main manufacturing takes place further away. In terms of our factory, I don't know if you've got the plan there, and maybe I could point to it. I won't walk up there, but if you take the layout of the plan, I don't know if there's that, right? But it's effectively the furthest away from the properties is where our manufacturing takes place, right? The area that we're talking about, where we're looking for the extension, that would be where we do either storage of components for our equipment, or it'd be where we'd assemble products, and assembly work is not heavy and doesn't make a lot of noise at all. It's just simply putting two or three things together.
If you're looking at that, the one in front of us, you've got some.
Yeah.
I think what the point is where's the most noisy bit of your factory?
If you look on the right-hand side, down the right-hand side, where the right-hand side of the road is, that's the area where, yeah, that's where the manufacturing is. If anybody drives down there, you see Mo Farah, his picture is on the side of our building, and manufacturing takes place on that side, is where sorry? Well, I suppose we would say that, but that's the kind of end. So the manufacturing area isn't really close to the residents at all.
Okay, I think that answers that question, and we'll ask the officer the question about the light spillage, Councillor Mitchell, okay? Not at the moment, no, sorry, hold on. Right, Councillor John Todd.
Chair, I smell resolution in the air. Can I ask you something? I didn't catch your name.
It's Ray.
Ray, okay, you might call it Ray. Were there any other objections to this scheme that you're aware of?
Not as far as I know,
Okay.
because we've tried to look on your website to see if you've got objections, and there's nothing there. What I would like to add is, before we actually put this application in, we called all the residents to our offices last year in May. She was one of them, and they all walked away from there saying, we really like what you're planning to put forward, and we'll support you on it. So I'd have to say I am surprised by what we're hearing here. And sorry, could you?
Excuse me, sorry, hang on a minute. Can you just answer directly the question that Councillor Todd asked you? You've said you had a consultation meeting with residents. That's fine. I think. Do you want to ask your supplementary?
I do, yeah. I just want to clear the air. Okay. So at the start of your evidence, Ray, you made an unconditional offer to give this young lady what she's seeking.
Yeah. I mean,
now, what would be? I'm trying to sort of fast track that and put it in implementation, but we're not negotiators here, or you're lawyers.
Yeah.
How do we do that? That ensures compliance on your part.
I mean, from our side, if I suppose if you wanted to put a condition in and say, look, you want to put shrubs down that side, fine, that's not a problem.
Okay, I've just looked over at our officer, and he's just said he can add a condition. We can discuss that. That can be discussed, and that means it would take care, hopefully, of the objection of Chantal.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I hope so.
We hope, yeah. So what we'd need to do is, it would be a discussion that our officer would have with yourself, and then, and also consult with yourself. Is that correct? Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, yeah, right. So we want
Chair.
to, okay, Councillor John Todd?
Yes, Chair. I just wondered that our officers may have a view, may be appropriate to defer it short term to see whether they can satisfactorily get agreement, and perhaps you'd be allowed to sign it off if we get approval. No.
Can I come in, Chair, if that's okay? It's Sam. Over here, sorry, next to Matthew. I mean, we can, as always, members are able to, you can add conditions if you see fit, but I think bear that in mind, and then when you come back round to me, we can have a discussion about whether that's lawful and what we can do it and stuff like that at that point. I'll give it some consideration now while I've got the time, and then when we come back to it shortly, we can run through it in a bit more detail.
Thank you, Sam. That's really helpful. Okay. Can we move on then to questions? I've got Councillor, Vikram Gurul.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation so far. Your company, Russell Phoenix, it's a well-known and fantastic company in our borough. Won very, many accolades with the Chamber of Commerce and many other places. So that's fantastic. And, one thing we know about this pandemic, especially the pressure on the aviation industry, is we need SMEs and larger businesses in our borough to step up for local employment. So it's similar to what Councillor Mitchell said about those extra jobs that you've mentioned. It would be great if they were either through apprenticeships in the borough or for people that lived in the borough. I know Councillor Mitchell said Feltham, he's putting his ward councillor hat on, but I'm just talking about the borough. If those jobs were filled in the borough, and that would be fantastic, as long as the skill set is there. But I know there are many skilled residents in our borough that can meet your requirements, hopefully. So just a question about that. Second question is, right at the end, you said about working with your neighbours and people, and obviously Charlotte's given a presentation. So similar to what Councillor Todd said, if there's a way that we can get some sort of guarantee tonight that you will work with Charlotte and meet some...
It's Chantel.
Sorry, Chantel. That's a mistake of mine. I apologise. If you can work with Chantel and her fantastic SME business to mitigate her problems and concerns, which are quite valid, especially with the business that she's involved in, then that will be great. And I'd like to hear about what efforts will be made on that side. Thank you.
Well, if you take the picture that was shown up with that fence, with the fence that's been along our boundary and the residence boundary, which is there, including Chantel's, I can't remember, probably 4 or 5 years ago, that fence, it was actually dilapidated, it was falling down. And what we did is we spoke to all of the residents along there and said, look, this fence is coming down, we're quite happy to replace it, right? And we work with you, you tell us how to do it. Chantel actually approached us at that time and said, when you're doing that, would you mind doing it at a period of time when I can actually not have cats in my cattery? And would you, at that point, would you mind working with me and effectively, so I'll close my cattery for a week. Would you mind paying me for a week for like what her capacity would fit in that cattery? And we actually paid her the money for a week to make sure that she wasn't out of pocket when we actually did this. So this is the kind of stuff that we tend to try and do with the neighbours, because we appreciate having good neighbourhood relationships is going to actually help us. Dare I say, we're not there in the evening after, people have gone home, et cetera, et cetera. The last thing we want is our neighbours coming over the fence and doing whatever they want to do our property. We're looking for them to actually almost be our guardians there. So why would we want to cause a bad relationship with them?
Yeah, I think second question, I think that's been taken on board.
It has.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you. What about the first question in terms of the efforts to fill those vacancies in the borough?
What we do, Councillor Gurwal, is we always, as I said, we always try and find people locally if we can, right? But a lot of the time, the skill sets that we're looking for, they're not there. When it comes to apprentices, we always try and bring it through. We've got a lot of what I'd say local people from the Hounslow Borough that actually work for us there. It's a large proportion of them that do, and a lot of the time, if you go back about say 10 years ago, we had a massive skill shortage here in Hounslow, and we were looking to recruit more people. And a lot of the time, what we did was we actually asked people who had family members who were looking for work. At that time, companies were getting rid of people. We were still recruiting, and we actually brought in a load of people and actually then trained them up to do the kind of work that they can now do. So we've kind of taught a lot of the people kind of how to weld, how to fabricate, how to bend metal, how to polish things, all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of what we do. And really, you know, over the years, you'll see we've got family members whose grandparents worked there, who now their grandchildren are working there, and these ones are now looking to bring in their further children, and a lot of them are from the Hounslow Borough.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
I'm moving on now. It's Councillor Richard Foote.
Thank you, Chair. There's a couple of points. I'm looking at the office block, but I'm assuming that there appears to be manufacturing on the ground floor of the office block. Is that correct?
What we have is already, it's not, what we have is one area of that already exists, right? So when you look at that office block.
What I'm referring to is the planning application.
Yeah, but if you look at that,
I mean, if you're already got a warehouse there, but you're adding offices, then, you know, I'm saying, is the planning application, which is what we're here to look at, is it adding an industrial area at the ground floor?
What it's doing is it's adding what I'd call an assembly area on the ground floor. Yeah. And then half of that block that you're looking at, a portion of that already exists, right? So half of that, the width of it, half of it already exists up to 2 stories. So what we're proposing to do is add a 3rd story above that, and then next to it build one which is like 3 stories. So we've then got office block on top, and the bottom story is where the assembly work would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So that already exists, and it's not, that area is like a customer display area, is what it's currently used for, is where when our customers come in.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to understand what, you know, we're here to look at planning.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm just trying to understand what is the planning application and what's otherwise.
Yeah, sure.
Can I just go on to, I'm not sure whether the question's with the planning officer or what, but I'm confused about the shrubbery. Why, you know, we seem to be going towards it be some sort of discussion subsequent. Is there any reason why that cannot be a condition? I mean, would you oppose it as a condition?
No, not at all. That's what I said. Is if you wanted to say, look, is along that, and the way I understand it is when you look at the plan, as it were, that was shown, it's got like shrubbery along one whole length and a little bit of one side, and the other bit it's shown as nothing.
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted to actually add like the same shrubbery along that,
well, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, my head says, why is it that you can do it there, but you can't do it there?
Well, we can do.
Well, that's okay.
From our point of view.
Okay, thanks, Richard. That's fine. Thank you. And I've got Councillor Guy Lambert.
Press the wrong button. Thank you, Chair. I confess I hadn't heard of Russell Finex, and I'm delighted that we have you in the borough as a world leader, according to your website, in your technologies. Good to see. I'm interested in the parking issue here, because you're asking for essentially 9 more spaces than you should be asking for, according to the London plan. And that has an impact on the category, but more to the point, more equally relevantly, we don't want, more parking spaces by definition well, not by definition, but they're largely for people who are not local, because we would expect local people to come here, to come by active means of transport. So why should we approve these extra parking spaces outside of all the policies?
Do you want to answer that? Yeah, I'll let. Damien's been the one who's been working on our transport, so I don't know if you want to. Do you want to just pull the chair over, just in case another question comes along?
As Ray's explained, while they do try to recruit locally, there is obviously a skill shortage and a specialist skill set. So at the moment, approximately 83% of the staff live 3 miles away from the sites. So that's not to say they don't live in the Hounslow borough, but most of them don't live in the immediate area of Feltham. If you know Feltham area reasonably well, the public transport is not necessarily direct. So to actually get to the site from some parts of Hounslow where staff are travelling in from, they do need to drive by car to reduce the journey time. So the buses and trains aren't directly to the site. So it's actually more convenient for local staff as well as staff living further away to actually drive to the site to reduce their commute time to sort of less than half an hour rather than being an hour and plus. That makes.
I want to explore this a little bit further. In these times, a lot of companies, a lot of employers are saying we're not going to have people coming into the office, particularly it's a bit different in manufacturing, obviously, but we're not going to have people coming in the office every day. So therefore, we won't need as much transport, we won't need as much parking. What are your policies in this respect?
In terms of the policy, I obviously defer to, I was the transport consultant who supported the planning application. So in terms of Russell Finance policy, it's probably raised.
I mean, at the moment, I mean, what we found is that by not having people coming in and working on our site, because of the nature of the work that we do, we need actually quite a lot of communication between people. And while we've done our best to try and make things work on Teams and Zoom meetings and things like that, it basically takes away from the real face-to-face, and actually where we're making bespoke equipment, which is what we're doing for our customers, that you can't do it by sitting on the other side of end of a computer screen, because when you're making this stuff, if things don't go together, you've actually got to go out and have a look at it, and you've got to have a look at it with your engineers or the sales guys who have actually sold the product. So we're not, if you like, we're not a company which is saying that essentially Google or someone like that, sit at home, you can't come in at the moment. What we're having to do is stagger people in because of COVID, but try and keep things safe as much as we can. But when hopefully things get back to normal, we're not going to be, dare I say, the Googles of this world where we can afford to say, look, you guys all work from home. It just won't be like that. Not in our kind of line of business. It just will not work for us.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so my final sally on this in this area will be looking at Google Earth as sneaky councillors do. It looks to me like an awful lot of your parking spaces are reserved for presumably for managers, and on the day that Google Street View went past, most of them were empty, whereas all the other parking spaces were full. So I'm wondering whether a more flexible parking policy would allow you to provide the extra parking that you want without breaching planning policies.
What I'd say is it depends on when Google Maps or whoever you're looking at went actually past the premises, because if if it's been within the last 18 months, right, for a period of time, there was nobody hardly coming in at all, right, and the only people that physically had to be there were there, right. Everybody else, we were trying to get people to work from home and as much as we could, right. Now, when you look at, we don't actually reserve spaces for managers or anything like that. It just isn't like that. So it's very much a first come, first served kind of principle there. And what we have done is anybody living within 3 miles, we've stopped them actually parking on our site. So they're not allowed to park on the site. They have to make their way a different route in. And after that, it's really whoever arrives first will get a parking space. If you don't arrive early enough, then you're not going to find a parking space. And that's kind of how it works. So it depends on which date you're looking at this. Google Maps is when the pictures were taken.
Google Earth, there's a lot of, there seem to be a lot of little badges on parking spaces, but perhaps I'm misinterpreting that.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, Councillor Lambert? Okay, thank you. Councillor Richard Foote, you have a supplementary?
Yes, Chair. Following on the gentleman there was, I think, did you describe yourself as the transport?
Yeah, transport.
Yeah. Can I? You talked about poor public transport in the area. I've got to challenge you on that because on my count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buses that operate within the matter of a few hundred yards of your building. 2 of them actually drive down Browse Lane.
I'm not saying
you're also within walking distance of Feltham Station. In addition to that, if you look across some of the other buses that come down there, the 490 and the 285, which run along up to past the station, I'm really very, very puzzled by your claim that public transport is poor in that area.
No,
I would classify it as being part of the best public transport served area in the borough.
I think you've got to look at sort of the wider picture. I know there's obviously good bus services in the immediate vicinity of the site, and there's the train station. But in terms of respect where staff live and commuting into work, that their journeys in are very convoluted, sometimes using the public transport. We've done a staff travel survey as part of this exercise. And a lot of them, the suggestion was if they use public transport at the moment, it's going to increase their journey time by half hour, 40 minutes. Just the nature of origin and destination. Bus services don't always run between door to door. You have to sort of change services, etc. So that's the point I was trying to make. Is it's easier sometimes for some staff to drive rather than even local staff.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is that, in fact, not only, I've just talked about where the buses end up in Feltham, but they come from 4 different areas. They come from north, south, east and west. They're coming out from Sunbury into there. They're coming from Hounslow. They're coming from the airport area and beyond. They're coming from Richmond, Kingston, Twickenham. All of those areas are directly served to that area. And I find it, I don't know, you're an expert, so I presume that you've used some sort of mapping or idea to get it. But
yeah,
I don't know, there seems to be a fault in there somewhere.
No, in terms of staff, it's where their home location is. If they can get a convenient bus service, a lot of them have to change buses 2 or 3 times to get to the site, and that makes it unattractive to use public transport. People who use public transport, they want to get on the bus and don't want to be changing 3 or 4 times to get to the location. They want to make it smooth. If you can get in your car and drive, because it's a half-hour drive rather than a 45-minute commute, it does make it a little bit more attractive, unfortunately. But as Ray said, there's policies in place that if you live within 3 miles, you have to walk or cycle to the site. You can't park there at the moment, which is part of the travel plan. Going forward, the travel plan will be looking to put in electric charging points to encourage the more sustainable mode of transport. There's policies there to encourage people to use interest-free season loans to buy season tickets for staff as well. So Russell Fenix, they are doing as much as they can to encourage staff to use sustainable modes of transport. It's unfortunate, staff make their own decisions. You can't force them to all use public transport, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay, can we leave it there, please? Thank you. No, that's okay. You can come back on that one later if you wish. Thank you both very much indeed. That's helpful. I'm going to move on now back to Sam, please. Can we have a summary and some other? You've had some questions. You've picked those up as you went, and if you can answer those as we go, and then we'll pick up any other questions that members have. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chair. So obviously the applicant has made an offer this evening in terms of the option to look at providing the boundary fence and potentially reconfiguring the car park to allow for planting along the boundary with Miss Barford's property. I mean, we'll need to work out the conditions that would need to be amended, but if members are happy, we could agree that via yourself, Chair, in discussion with Matthew, if that's agreeable to members, just rather than picking through all the individual conditions. But a lot of the stuff that members have raised would be picked up, such as like car park management. We will secure a car park management plan that's set out in the addendum. There's also a lighting strategy as well to address Councillor Mitchell's concern there. So that will require details to show that there's going to be no light spill onto any of the neighbouring properties and stuff like that. So we'll agree that. But yeah, they're the main things, I suppose, that I picked up on. But if members have anything else that they want to add.
Thanks, Sam. Right, I'm just going to quickly look. I saw a lot of nods of agreement as I look around the room from members of the committee. So that's agreeable. Thanks very much, Sam, for that. Are there any other questions for the officer, please, from anybody? Members? Sorry, this is for members only. I'm just looking around. No. Richard?
Yeah, could I just ask of our transport officer what his views are about the viability of public transport to this particular area?
Yeah.
Right. And also, can we just have a, I think we'd like to pick up on the fact that we've got 9 extra car spaces than the London plan. That was the part that Councillor Guy Lambert was asking about. So could you cover those 2 areas, please?
Sure. With regard to the public transport, it is good accessibility to public transport, and that's borne out by the PTAL, which is 4, I believe, for this site. In terms of the additional spaces, it's not quite that black and white just by the nature of this is an industrial site rather than an office site. So the standards do apply to B1 offices, but it does say that for industrial sites, it should have regard to the B1 office space in terms of the parking standards. It does go on to say, however, specifically for industrial sites, the role of parking, both for workers and operational vehicles, varies considerably depending on location and the type of development proposed. Provision should therefore be determined on a case-by-case basis. With this site, we've heard that they have the exclusion zone, that no one is allowed to park within their site if they live within 3 miles of the site. However, that doesn't stop people still driving in, but parking outside the site on the street or elsewhere. So at the moment, parking on this site and the way people commute and travel to work is relatively uncontrolled in planning terms, whereas this planning application, with the conditions we've attached, seeking travel plan, seeking parking management plan, seeking much better cycle storage, not just for the additional office space, but for the existing site, that through this we could potentially get fewer people traveling to the site by car, but the ones that do will be better self-contained within the site rather than spilling out onto the surrounding area. So on balance, we feel that in this situation, we could probably support a slight increase in the parking numbers, because on the whole, we could potentially be getting a more sustainable mode shift to active modes and public transport, which is good.
Right. Thank you for that
Chair,
clarification,
sorry.
please.
Chair, it's Sam.
Oh,
Sorry.
Sam.
There was one thing actually that I forgot to add, which is I do need to add an extra condition on away from all the other discussion, and it was just regarding to the sustainable drainage implementation. I trust members don't have any objection to that being added this evening, but that was missing from the addendum report, so I do apologise for that. But we need to add
Most
it on.
appropriate, Sam. Thank you. Okay, I'm just looking round to see if there's any other member that has any questions for the officer. No, I'm sorry. No, can't. Sorry, this is only for members. I'm terribly sorry. Okay. Is that it? Okay. So thanks for that, Sam. Okay. So we're now over to councillors, to your comments, please. And has anyone got any suggestions as to the decision? Councillor Mel Collins.
Yeah, makes a change listen, but I'm going to move approval subject to the additional conditions that have been agreed this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Have I got a seconder for that? Councillor Samir Chowdhury?
Yes, I can second it, Chair, with the conditions. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Is there anybody want to make a comment? Anyone want to do anything? Also, we just move to the vote. I move to the vote then. Can I see those in favour of the planning application with those conditions and the extra conditions that we're going to be added that will have Chair's approval? Okay. Can I just see everybody? Thank you. There, yes. And that's 4. Any against? Okay, of abstention. Thank you. I've got 1 abstention. Okay, so that's been agreed by everyone here, apart from 1 abstention. Wendy. Yeah, I saw them. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so okay, Sam. So we look forward to the discussions. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have a 5-minute adjournment for anyone who needs to, and anyone who needs to move